All drivers should keep a few must-have tools in their cars in case of emergency. One tool I found to be super handy is a portable jump starter, like this amazing IM29. Not only will it come in clutch if the world hates you while you're stranded on the side of the road, it also features an LED flashlight, 2 regular USB ports, including one quick charge port, a USB Type-C port, and a 20,000 mAh battery capacity to keep your devices charged. With peak output of 2,500 amps, it's capable of jump-starting a gas or diesel engine up to 8 liters in displacement. Simply connect the included cables to your positive and negative battery terminals, press the power button, and start the car. Having one of these handy will save you time, money, and potentially awkward social interaction. So head over to the Amazon link in the video description and use the promo code Zygrene001 to save up to 20% on the amazing IM29 portable jump starter. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the video.
Welcome to another video, guys. I hope you guys are all healthy and safe right now with what's going on in the world. I don't know about you guys, but I have not driven for pleasure in over 2 months. I'm in California. Shelter in place has been going on for quite a while now, and I've been playing it safe, not really going out a whole lot except to get groceries and things. So here we are. We're in my 2006 Cayman S. I thought I'd just go for a quick canyon drive and talk about the overall ownership experience for the car so far. But first things first, let me push it a little bit in the canyons here and just remind myself why exactly I bought this car in the first place. Right away, one of the things I love about this car is the steering. It's just so natural feeling and full of feedback. You can feel every little bump in the road through this hydraulic rack. Now, I'm not a big fan of this thin-spoked, large diameter steering wheel. I wish this car came with a sport steering wheel option. I've got in sport mode right now for increased throttle response. So downshifts, heel toe downshifts are really easy. Acceleration is more than adequate from the 3.4 liter flat six. 295 horsepower, over 250 foot-pounds of torque. Not a ton of power torque by today's standards, but considering the car only weighs around 3,000 pounds, it still has a really good power-to-weight ratio, around 10 pounds per horsepower. And as you'll see here, the brakes on this car work amazingly well. I've got just the stock rotors and calipers with Ferodo DS2500 pads, which are somewhat mild street, sort of track-friendly pad. I ran them at Laguna Seca a couple months ago, which is a notoriously hard on the brakes type of track, and they held up just fine. I didn't get any fade whatsoever. It really gives the braking performance an OEM plus kind of feel. Let's see about this uphill acceleration. The mid-range torque on this car is really nice compared to some of the Hondas I've owned. Obviously the S2000, can't ever get away from that comparison. Love this switchback area here. Overall, this car just inspires a lot of confidence when I drive it in the canyons. In a way, even the S2000 didn't. My camera car right now is an S2000, and I might just hop in that car for a bit and see how it compares to the Cayman back-to-back. But I still remember the way that car drives very, very well. I mean, obviously, I've owned 3 of them and had lots of seat time in those cars. And the Cayman just inspires a level of confidence that the S2000 just never really gave me. The S2000 is more of a fingertips car. You have to be ready to countersteer, honestly, around every corner where you're attacking aggressively. That's just the overall nature of that car. You can power oversteer it. You can entry oversteer. It's very sensitive to on and off throttle adjustments mid-corner. Whereas the Cayman feels a little bit more stable and planted. It doesn't play with you as much on the limit, but the flip side is you get plenty of traction, plenty of grip. The steering communicates everything about what the front tires are doing. And in my opinion, it's a little bit easier to work your way up to the limit of the car without being afraid that it's going to snap on you. Now, in terms of the cost of ownership on this car, I've owned it for a little less than 6 months now. I've put around, let's see, 7,000 to 8,000 miles on it. It's pretty reliable as a daily driver. It's only when you really start pushing this thing on the track that things start to get a little hairy and expensive. So I'll include the maintenance costs on the screen. When I first bought it, within a couple thousand miles, the clutch went out, unfortunately. So I had it replaced with another OEM clutch. Apparently, these clutches tend to fail pretty suddenly. And I also had the rear main seal replaced while my mechanic was doing the clutch, just to fix a minor oil leak. Besides that, I haven't had to do any general maintenance from daily driving the car. But once I started tracking it, or once I decided to start tracking it, I wanted to get some preventative maintenance done. So I did the LN Engineering 2-quart deep sump with the X51 style baffle. These M96 engines are kind of notorious for oil starvation during high lateral Gs. So the deep sump should really help keep the engine well lubricated on the track. And I am running Bridgestone RE71R tires, which are pretty grippy for a street tire. So even more reason to make sure I'm not suffering from oil starvation. So one thing to note about this engine is it has an 8-quart oil capacity. With my 2-quart deep sump, that brings it up to right around 10 liters for me. But the cool thing is, even Porsche Cup cars, meaning race cars, run the Mobil 1 0W40 full synthetic oil, which is super cheap and easily widely available. You can get it at like Walmart or Target, plus an OEM filter. The total oil change cost for me was, I think, less than $60. So once I started tracking the car, here's where things get a little dicey. The stock air oil separator, or AOS, on these cars is a very small plastic diaphragm design, and it really doesn't have enough capacity to route oil to the right place during a sustained high RPM load, meaning on a racetrack basically, especially when cornering hard. At Laguna Seca turn 2, which is a tight left-hand corner, almost every lap where I was really pushing it, I would see a white cloud of smoke come out from my exhaust. It eventually threw a check engine light, but it turned out the stock AOS, it wasn't actually damaged. I think it just didn't have enough capacity to do its job properly. So to actually replace an AOS with another stock one is very cheap and pretty easy to do. It's well under $100 if you buy the OEM part, and will take you less than an hour to replace. However, if you don't upgrade to the much more expensive Porsche Motorsports AOS, which for this particular car, it's something like $1,700, I want to say, you'll just have the same issue on the track again. So that's where I'm sort of at right now. I'm trying to decide if I really want to continue tracking this car, considering all the potential issues it has. Even the maintenance to make it quote-unquote reliable is really expensive and not guaranteed to actually work. I have heard of folks with the Motorsport AOS still getting AOS failure. The power steering pump on these is known to overheat at the racetrack, and these engines are very prone to bore scoring due to a combination of high engine temperatures and the oil starvation issue I mentioned earlier. I think I have the oil starvation issue figured out, but I've even heard of people with an AccuSump or the deep sump like myself suffering from oil starvation. On top of that, I would need upgraded cooling. So all in all, I'm just doing the math in my head, and it's really hard to justify spending another several $1,000s on this car when that won't even make it as reliable as some of the other cars I could potentially get out there for track use. So I sort of bought this car without doing a whole lot of research on what it really takes to track. That being said, it's been really, really solid as a daily driver so far. I mean, it rides relatively well, plenty of creature comforts, heated seats. It's got 2 trunks with plenty of space. As long as you don't need more seats, this car really is a very suitable daily driver for most car enthusiasts. So let's also talk about value. Value for money as well as depreciation. The 06 to 08 987.1 Cayman S, you can pick these up with reasonable miles, meaning under 100,000 miles, for anywhere in the $18,000 to $25,000 range. The MSRP on these cars back in 06-07 was around $60,000 to $65,000. My car is spec'd out with the heated memory seats, the Bose stereo, which honestly I haven't seen any Cayman S's without the Bose stereo, and the Sport Chrono. It does not have the PASM Porsche Active Suspension Management or the PSE Porsche Sports exhaust, or the sport seats, which would have been really nice, and the sport steering wheel. But I think the MSRP on my particular car was just a hair under 65 grand. So the fact that I picked this up with like 63,000 miles for less than a third of that original MSRP is pretty amazing. In my opinion, these cars have gotten very, very close to the bottom of the depreciation curve. Now, I don't think these cars will significantly rise in value anytime soon. It's arguable that the later generation, the 981, improved upon this car in every way. So in general, with Caymans, the newer the car, the more desirable. I'll leave the 718 boxer 4-cylinder up to you to decide on that. But overall, the 987.1 is the least desirable Cayman, mostly for reliability issues that I mentioned. If you guys have any questions about the car or the ownership experience, or even any suggestions for me, please leave those in the comments. As of now, I have no plans to get rid of this car. I really still enjoy it, like I said, as a daily driver. The question is whether I get another track car. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I'll let you guys speculate what that really means. I'm just not entirely convinced anymore that the Cayman S is the right car to go down that path. But anyways, I'll save that for a future video once I figure things out. Hope you guys are staying safe and sound, and I'll see you next time.